welcome into Coach's Corner. I am your host, Coach Var, as always. And I'm happy to come back with a new episode of Coach's Corner because we have some big breaking news. We have NBA news that came through just a couple hours ago, luckily right before Coach's Corner, not right after. Damian Lillard is on the move. He is gone. He's officially going to Milwaukee. That's right, the Milwaukee Bucks made the move. They made the trade. They snuck underneath Miami's little, a handshake, and they made the handshake instead. And they get Damian Lillard instead of the Miami Heat, who were rumored for the longest time to be linked to Dame and everything. But not so fast, my friend. They went that route. Milwaukee gets Damian Lillard, trade Drew Holiday away, and the Suns got in on the action too by trading DeAndre Ayton to the Trailblazers. And basically a bunch of role players kind of fill out the rest of the deal. But it's a very, very scary thought that Damian Lillard is now with Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee. Perhaps, at times, the best point guard in the league with his scoring, his three-point shooting ability, is now playing against the most dominant player from a slashing and dunking standpoint in the NBA. And that duo will be super exciting. And on top of that, they managed to keep Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton out of that deal. And only gave up Drew Holiday, who, like I said, is a big piece of them, like on the defensive side and everything, and how they kind of play, their toughness and everything. But that whole deal is now, basically out the window. They are now, going to move forward with Damian Lillard at the one. Kind of, like I said, role players fell out the rest, but keeping Chris Middleton was huge for them. And I'm super curious to see what this team looks like now. And as I mentioned, Miami is the big loser out of this because they were basically the destination. I feel like every offseason we get this where Miami's the destination. They have all this hope, all this we're the team, we're the premier market. Everyone's going to want to come here. We're going to trade for everyone. And then Pat Riley doesn't do any moves. He kind of just sticks with his old guns that he has with Jimmy Butler and Bam and hopes that they take him to the promised land, which they have been there with going to the finals this past year off of a very, I won't call it fluky, but it feels very like the Phillies when they went to the World Series where they got very hot at the right time. They matched up well against certain teams that just couldn't really keep up with them, whether it was because of an injury or just playing poor basketball like the Celtics did. The Miami Heat kind of just caught that hot wave and just rode into the finals until they lost to the superior team in the Nuggets. So, like I said, they're the big loser here. Just Jimmy Butler is not a young man, definitely not a young man. So, who knows how much longer he's going to play? How much longer he can contribute at the level that they need him to in order to keep making these finals runs. And I don't know. I don't know how much longer that is. But Portland also, I think. They get players that they're probably going to end up moving on from, that they're probably going to move for better pieces and whatnot. But, that's kind of just the business of what they were going to do. They're tearing it down. They have guys that they're going to rebuild around, Scoot Henderson being the main guard now. And, the Suns. Like I said, the Suns were in on this deal, very sneaky, that they got, Yusuf Nurkic from the Blazers as well, traded him basically straight up for Ayton. Like I said, they got a bunch of pieces, but so they're swapping out Ayton. It never felt like Ayton and the Suns were going to really fix the relationship that was kind of broken towards the end of, the Monty Williams tenure there. It just was never going to work for him, and I think it's good that he's leaving. So maybe he gets a new chance with, a new rebuilding team to kind of be, I guess, their best player. As of today, I would say he's probably their best guy, but he gets to go there. Nurkic kind of gets to play with a contender in the Suns now who want to win now. So, all in all, I think the three teams that made the trade got what they wanted. Basically got probably the best deal that they could have imagined. And also, like I said, the Heat were snaked out of it. And I'm curious how much, that actually happened, where it's they really were just conspiring to play against the Heat here. And that's why they took this deal instead of whatever Miami had on the table. But well, we don't know, and we'll see how it plays out over the course of the season with this Damian Lillard and Giannis tandem. I'm very excited to see it. But all that being said, I feel like we got to move on now to the football part of things because still off season for basketball, still kind of the last domino, I think, to drop here. Maybe James Harden news, maybe, but other than that, that's the NBA for you. But either way, we got to do one thought of the week. And very curious last week, I mentioned basically the theme of the show, the title and everything was Broncos Country, Let's Not Ride, because I tend to, try and describe to you my thought on how the Broncos were a fraudulent franchise. And then they ended up losing 70-20. And I don't want to say I'm a genius or anything, but I might be a little bit of a football genius at the very least. So, that's me sitting on my throne of truth here regarding my thought of the week. But this is my next thought of the week here. Looking at the pro quarterbacks we've seen come out of Ohio State, we've had, basically, if we're counting back, we have C.J. Stroud, we have Justin Fields, then we have Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, we have Cardell Jones, we have J.T. Barrett, we have Braxton Miller, and we have Terrell Pryor. That's roughly like 10 to 12 years worth of quarterbacks to come out of the Ohio State University. And right now, out of that list, and like I said, we're going to exclude Haskins. It's a very big what if. Rest in peace to him. That's very tough how he passed away. Was it this past year or 2 years ago? Either way, not going to lump him in here as a failure or anything. But those other players that I mentioned, Braxton Miller, Terrell Pryor, J.T. Barrett, Cardell Jones, and Justin Fields, who's not looking great now, they all are just basically not really panning out. They're not doing well. It's become a stigma for Ohio State quarterbacks that they're not a good quarterback school. Like, they can't really produce guys that can translate to the big league level because they have so many weapons around them. The scheme is very friendly. It's very 1-2, the ball's out of your hand, and you're throwing to NFL level guys. Like, you look at the wide receivers that come out there: Michael Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, just to name a few. And they have Marvin Harrison now and Emeka Egbuka coming out next year. So, like, unbelievable talent that they have there at Ohio State, but those quarterbacks don't translate once they lose those receivers in that scheme. And it's very, very just curious how that happens and what really is the reason behind that. And I can't pin it down. I think a lot of it is situational. A lot of it is they just can't translate. The scheme does rise up a level. You're not at Ohio State, which goes through a relatively comfy Big Ten schedule. And, just like I said, situations. Justin Fields is the prime example of a situation right now where I don't think he's a great quarterback. I didn't think he was going to translate perfectly. And he showed flashes last year, but the situation he is in is just a dumpster fire. They're just not helping him out. He's not helping himself out. The coaching staff is poor. Like, nothing good is happening for Justin Fields right now. And so his failure might not just be like his skill that he can't compete. It's just situational. But there's the one guy that I failed to mention there in that whole spiel about how Ohio State quarterbacks don't pan out. And that's the rookie, C.J. Stroud. And I want to point out C.J. Stroud because I think we might have the guy who is going to break that curse, at least make people think about the Ohio State quarterback still as a position that you don't draft them and they're going to be busts. Like, they might actually be a good group of players that you can depend on if you surround them with good players, good scheme, good coaching. And C.J. Stroud is that case. And I was high on C.J. Stroud coming out of the draft. I thought he was the second best quarterback behind Bryce Young, even, despite being the bigger quarterback. And I think being the better pure passer. And I say that because Bryce Young liked to improvise a lot, where Stroud, I think, is the better pocket guy, standing up, looking, and analyzing his spots, and then picking the right receiver. And he did that exceptionally well against the Georgia defense in the Peach Bowl, where they probably should have won if the kicker didn't blow that kick. Stroud is an unbelievable talent, and I think he's showing it now, and I think he's showing why he is one of the best quarterbacks, in this year's draft, why he could be like the next guy, because they came out on Sunday and they punched the Jaguars in the mouth. And it was one of those where, yes, the Jaguars' offense didn't look great, and they did have a special teams touchdown from that whole deal, but C.J. Stroud has yet to throw an interception. He's hooked up his wide receivers to be actually good threats. Robert Woods looks good again. Nico Collins has been playing really well. And Tank Dell, the rookie out of Houston who they drafted with Stroud, is having great games, is having explosive plays downfield, and is showing his verticality. And they're just, it's a Texans team that still isn't very good. They're still working out some kinks, and the offensive line is porous. But there was something on Sunday that I think showed that C.J. Stroud has the makings of a good quarterback and can be NFL level accurate quarterback, can really, be the guy for the Texans here. And like I said, they're still ways away. I think they're still figuring it out, but the way that they've looked in the first couple weeks here, their offense at least, in times, given what they have, I think has really impressed me. And it's not from the Colts are actually surprising me and impressing me. The Texans are not surprising me that they're bad, but they are impressing me because they're doing really just good things for C.J. Stroud's development. Where you look at Anthony Richardson hurt himself, so that's tough to evaluate. But Bryce Young is not having a good go of it, and I don't think it's because Bryce Young is bad. I just think they're not putting him in the same situations that Stroud is to succeed, and frankly, I think it's very interesting to watch it play out. But yeah, right. C.J. Stroud right now is one of the more impressive players, I think, from a rookie quarterback standpoint that I've seen in the past couple of years. So, because it's not often we get those classes with Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tua, and Jalen Hurts where they're all stars already. It takes time, but Stroud is showing up early that I think he is a legitimate player. And so, with that being said, I don't have a pressing college thought that I want to rattle off here that I guess really makes sense, because I really want to just brag. I really just want to brag about how I kind of nailed my college picks on Saturday. I kind of murdered it. I went 9-2-1, by far my best, outing of the time. Already, it's not often that I do kill it when it comes to the betting stuff, but I kind of killed it on Saturday. Oh, we have a shower. Anyways, but yeah, I think I kind of murdered it. I 9-2-1. I haven't done that good, I don't think, in a while. Really, it has been a decent time since I've done that. So I'll go over the picks here. Maryland minus 7.5 over Michigan State. That was super easy money. Super easy. Colorado at Oregon over 70.5. Colorado got demolished. Their defense absolutely torched. Their offense shut down. Oregon was all over them. Oregon did their part. Colorado just refused to show up, did absolutely nothing. Wazoo +3 against Oregon State. That was pretty easy. It got dicey there. Wazoo was winning that game pretty easily, but that was very towards the end there it got shaky, but they ended up winning by 3. But I had the plus, so we're okay. Wyoming minus 2.5 against App State. We almost had a backdoor cover there by App State, but not so fast. Florida State minus 2.5 at Clemson. They won by a touchdown in overtime. That game was really good. Really came down to Clemson's kicker blowing it. First-time kicker. Wasn't able to really compete there. It was really tough. I had Air Force minus 4.5 against San Jose State. They won by 20. Washington versus Cal over 60.5. Washington almost covered that by themselves. UNC minus 7.5 against Pitt. They covered that with relative ease. It was kind of close, but Drake May did some Drake May things. Then Notre Dame +3 against Ohio State. That one pushed. That's our one there. Georgia Southern minus 6.5 at Ball State. This was in a monster play that worked out perfectly because Georgia Southern won 40-3 over Ball State. Ole Miss +7 in Alabama. They were not able to cover that. Very, very just poor performance from Ole Miss. I'm not trusting them ever again in a point spread. Can't do it. I just can't do it with Jackson Dart anymore. Then San Diego State versus Boise State. The 6.5 there +6.5. They covered with 45 seconds left. It was really at the very end there that we almost didn't get that, but thank goodness San Diego State backdoor covered for the win. So, like I said, good week, good times. Really enjoyed myself there, getting that 9-2-1 record. I think it's a good omen, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't love the board this week. It's not a great board. I think but overall, I don't love my picks. I have them, obviously. Of course I have them. But I don't know if I would marry any of the picks. Sorry, the dog. Hey, what are you doing? Hey. That dog is doing something. I don't know what she's doing back there. A lot of distractions here in Coach's Corner tonight, I guess. But either way, we'll just go ahead and jump into the action here. Utah plus 3.5 against Oregon State. Night game on Friday at Oregon State in Corvallis, I believe is how you say it. A little bit of a sketchy line here. I don't know if I love this, but Utah really just impressed me with their win over UCLA. Just a dominant physical win. 14-7 looks bad on paper, but the way that Utah won was pretty dominant. Pick six out the gate. Scored shortly after that and just held steady. So I'm taking the better coach team. I do like Oregon State, but I just don't think they're as good as the teams that they're going to be slated to play here. Starting with Wazoo, I think is like the closest one to them, and they didn't beat them. So I think Utah is just a better team. Going on the road, like I said, is tough for Utah, but that plus sign hunting, I like that a lot. Another Friday night game. Maybe it's just a Utah thing, like a Utah team thing. I have BYU plus 2 here. I have it plus 1.5 either way against Cincinnati. The fact that it's in by BYU makes this just very easy play for me. I think playing on the road here, Cincinnati has to travel. It's a late night game for them, and I don't think this BYU team is great by any means, but I don't think they're bad. I think they are a step above Cincinnati, and I think they'll just play a better game, a cleaner game. Emory Jones, I don't trust. So give me BYU plus the points there. Next, we have Pitt at Virginia Tech. I have Pitt minus 2.5. Virginia Tech is one of the worst teams in the ACC. I don't trust the quarterback. The only part that scares me here is I don't trust Pitt's quarterback either. But I just watched them play a much better, team in UNC, and they weren't terrible in that game. They just lost a couple possessions that they couldn't have lost. But either way, the only thing that scares me is that it's at Virginia Tech at night, and I always think that's a tough atmosphere. Next, I have Notre Dame minus 5.5 at Duke. The road factor doesn't really do anything for me here. I think Notre Dame must have come back, make a statement. They should have won the game, I think, against Ohio State on Saturday. It's a close game, but they lost it at the buzzer. I just think they're a flat-out better team. I think Duke's going to come back down to earth here. I don't hate Riley Leonard like a lot of people do, but I have a hard time believing he'll perform well against this Notre Dame defense, who did do a good job against Ohio State until the end. Next one is Ball State at Western Michigan. I have Western Michigan minus the 1.5 here. This is just straight up, honestly, a fade Ball State team. Ball State having a rough go of it. On the road again at Western Michigan is not an easy game, I don't believe. So give me the Broncos minus 1.5. West Virginia at TCU. I like West Virginia plus 12, but the play here I have is over 52. This feels like a Big 12 matchup, like a very typical 25-35 type game. TCU, has kind of picked it up since the loss at against Colorado. I think that was just an eye-opener. I think they're kind of ready to roll. Chandler Morse has been playing better. The defense has been substantially better. And West Virginia is no slouch. I think West Virginia is a good team under Neil Brown. They're figuring it out as they go, but yeah. Next game, Troy at Georgia State. I have Georgia State minus the 1.5. It's at home. Sean Elliott has, improved steadily over the years with Georgia State. I think this is one of his better teams. And I don't want to say Troy doesn't impress me. I think they're an okay team in the Sun Belt, but I think Georgia State is just flat out the better team. Then we go to Boise State, Memphis. I like Boise State plus 3.5, but the play here I have is the over. That's right. Not a lot of I don't pick unders that often, so the over 60 here. This feels like a good old defensiveless game. No defense being played, just a lot of offense, high scoring, back and forth. Would not shock me if they eclipsed this in a very fun fashion. And I say that about the overs because I'm going to Arkansas State at UMass. I'm taking the under 55.5. And this is simply just I don't think these are very good teams. I can't imagine them scoring a ton of points on each other. The line has it a +1, -1 for whoever. And I think a close game means it'll be a low-scoring game. Moving on, we have Washington at Arizona. Washington at Arizona. I have Washington and Arizona the over. I was trying to figure it out. 67 is the number here. This is my points pick of the week. Washington State is a over machine. They're monsters. What can I say? Arizona is not a bad team also. So I'd say this is an upset watch for Pac-12 fans just because like sicko Pac-12 things. This is the very type of game that an overhyped Pac-12 team would lose. We'll see if they get it done against Arizona. At the very least, I think both teams score a lot of points. Then last but not least, and I don't know if I love this play, just putting it out there, just because I do think this is a good number for South Carolina. I like South Carolina plus 12.5 on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee came back last week, played a really good game against UTSA. I can't imagine they pull off a great performance like that again. South Carolina, I think, is a frisky SEC East team. I think they're going to give teams a lot more trouble than they were really expecting. And I think Spencer Rattler's playing great football right now. And I don't often give Spencer Rattler praise, but like I said, I think he's playing some of his personal best football. And for that reason, I like them to at least cover the 12.5 points because, I don't believe in Joe Milton to score 2 more touchdowns than a South Carolina team that has competed hard against teams like UNC and Georgia. So that being said, those are my picks of the week. Like I said, I'm not in love with them, but those are the cards we're dealt. So moving on to some NFL, talk through all these games real quick, and we'll get you out of here. Thursday Night Football, we have Detroit at Green Bay. I said it was a litmus test for the Lions on Sunday, and they passed it. They passed it with flying colors. They handled business very easily against the Falcons. Not really much of a fight from the Falcons at all. We'll get to them next, obviously, but the Packers came from behind to beat the Saints after looking very lackluster for 3 quarters and not being able to stop Derek Carr. But Derek Carr got hurt. Packers took advantage. Jordan Love looked good. What more can you say? So, with all that being said, I like Detroit to win this game. They've proven, I think, that they are a competent offense. I don't know if they're missing their injuries that bad because, like I said, they looked really good on defense against the Falcons, and they looked okay on offense. Jahmyr Gibbs had a good day rushing the ball. I'd like to see them spread out the targets more. I guess the wide receivers aren't great outside of Amon-Ra and Laporta, the rookie tight end, but I'd like to see him distribute the ball a little bit more out throughout the group. But I like the Lions in that game. Atlanta versus Jacksonville. This is the London game. Oi, London. This is going to be a gross game. I'm going to be honest. This is going to be a very nasty game. Jacksonville's coming off some very tough losses. I think this is a must-win game for Jacksonville. This isn't a must-win game for Atlanta. The travel's going to be tough, I think, but this feels about as must-win as it is for Jacksonville because 1-3, the odds aren't good on a team coming back from that type of start, and I don't think they can afford it given the fact that they are a younger team. Like they kind of need momentum to go, up. They need momentum to come to them quicker than it is, and I think Jacksonville will play with some urgency that might give the Falcons trouble. But I'm curious to see how this Desmond Ridder looks again because I think Detroit does have a decent defense, but I don't think the Jags have an experienced or a great defense. So, something has to give here. We'll see how that goes. Rams at Colts. The interest in this game is really, is Anthony Richardson going to play? Because I think the Rams should win this game hypothetically against I don't want to say inferior Colts team, because they just beat the Ravens really well. They handled the Texans. I think this will be a good game. I think this will be kind of a chaotic game in a way. We won't expect it to be good when we're just looking at the names, but then we get into it and it'll be exciting. But it really just depends on if Anthony Richardson plays or not. So that's my interest in it. So Washington and Philadelphia. Washington came back down to earth against the Bills. I think that'll continue this week against Philadelphia. That defensive line is going to eat the Commanders alive. Denver versus the Bears. I don't think I'll talk about it. I don't think I will. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Kind of a stinky game, especially if Jameis Winston is playing. It's a revenge game, I suppose. I can't say I love either of these teams. Just not from a fan perspective, but just watching this. Hypothetically, if Jameis Winston plays, I like the Buccaneers to win this, but I wouldn't be shocked if they lose this to Jameis either. I think it's about as 50-50 as you can go. The Ravens at Cleveland. I think this is a huge game in the division. I think this will really tell us who's the more legit team here. This performance, Baltimore has not looked as good as I thought they would, and there's only so many injuries you can blame. And the Browns are still trying to navigate their offense without Nick Chubb. I think their defense is awesome. Defense is incredible, but Deshaun Watson starting to pick up a rhythm. Maybe he shows more against Baltimore that he hasn't so far. We'll see. Minnesota, Carolina, I don't want to talk about this game either. Another 0-3 bowl. Losers galore. I think Minnesota should handle this game pretty easily, but they haven't looked good, so it's how can I trust them? The Steelers at Houston. This, I think, is I kind of set up C.J. Stroud in the beginning. This is one of those games where I think he could really prove himself if he does another game with no interceptions, loses by a touchdown or two, I'm not going to pound the offensive rookie of the year because obviously he won't be winning enough. But I think it'll prove more points about whether he might be the best quarterback in this draft class this year at least. So, and Pittsburgh, we just want to see that offense be better. That offense has been dreadful so far under Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator. Got to see it better. Miami at Buffalo, massive game. I think this will really tell us a lot about both teams from just a stylistic standpoint. They're just two different juggernauts, and the Bills, I think, might lose this game just because I think Miami's just rolling at a different pace right now. Cincinnati versus Tennessee. Given what these teams have shown us, this will be an ugly, nasty, sloppy game. I don't want to see it. Las Vegas at the Chargers, I think, is an interesting matchup just because the Raiders have shown more life than I thought they would, and the Chargers are actively trying to lose every game while also trying to win it. They play every game the exact same way, and it's so frustrating every time for Chargers fans. Arizona at San Francisco. This could be ugly. This could be really ugly, but the Cardinals have been frisky before, so we'll see. New England at Dallas, two very big name brands. Dallas should honestly mop up New England, but given how they performed last week against the Cardinals, I don't think it's entirely out of the question that New England steals this game. And, if Dak Prescott looks pedestrian again, if they have to try and come back again, then I think some very nasty talks will be happening around in Dallas. Then Kansas City at the Jets. That's a God, I wish Aaron Rodgers was playing primetime game. Zach Wilson, buddy, you're in for a treat. And then Seattle at the Giants is a very nasty game as well, given what the Giants have shown us so far. But Seattle should handle business there. I'm shocked Seattle is +1 there. That is an appalling number, even on the road, even against a Giants team that made the playoffs last year. I would demolish Seahawks +1 there. That is a crazy number from Vegas. What do they know? So that's your NFL slate. I think that's going to do it for me. Pretty good talking stuff here. Pretty good talking ball. We got the NBA stuff finally, some news, and maybe we'll talk some baseball next week with that kind of stuff kicking off. We're finishing the baseball season. The Cubs are trying to lose their playoff spot actively. I went to the game yesterday, by the way. Saw that missed play in the outfield in the flesh. I couldn't believe my eyes. My eyes were popping out of my head. I was shocked. But either way, that stuff is happening in baseball. We'll talk that next week. We'll probably go through some of that in the beginning of the show. But with all that being said, make sure you check out LK Sports Talk. Make sure you share the link for this YouTube video. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate all the views. The little bit of views I'm getting, I like it all. I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with the show. And until next time, I'm your host, Lucas Koch, and goodbye.